I didn't think we'd be back here so soon. But I will say this, it may be the coldest day outside, but I am hot as hell about this new drilling plan.
Yeah.
And we together killed the drill in the past, and together we will kill it once again.
Yeah.
Now, visiting the shore in early January isn't my idea of the greatest time to come, even though it's beautiful in many different ways. And nonetheless in the aftermath of a huge storm. But places like McLoon's are busiest during the height of the summer season, when just about everybody flocks to the beach. Throughout the Jersey Shore, restaurants, hotels, bait and tackle shops, countless other businesses depend on those warmer months to bring in enough revenue to stay afloat during the off-season. These businesses along our coast are an economic powerhouse for New Jersey, creating jobs and driving growth across our state. Our tourism industry generates about $44 billion in economic activity, directly and indirectly, supporting nearly 10% of the entire nation's workforce. Our seafood industry supports over 31,000 jobs, and we're home to one of the largest saltwater recreational fisheries in the nation. And throughout New Jersey, the homes and businesses that make up our coastal communities encompass nearly $800 billion in property values. Our state's economic future, therefore, hinges on a protected and pristine coastline that attracts people from around the world to our shores every summer. And it's not rocket scientists, it's common sense. But unfortunately, the Trump administration's latest offshore drilling plans not only defy common sense, but disregard the need of coastal communities here in New Jersey and across the nation. As many of you remember, the last 5-year plan was completed not even 1 year ago. And we arrived at that plan after many years of study, environmental reviews, negotiations, and healthy public input, including public hearings that we called for here in New Jersey that were held here in New Jersey. The plan included protections for the Atlantic, but also protections for the Pacific, the Arctic, and the Eastern Gulf of Mexico. Now, less than a year later, the ink is still drying on the pages of the 5-year policy, but President Trump's Department of Interior has decided to shred it to bits. And everything we've learned about this new plan thus far suggests the outright elimination of these hard-fought protections. The Trump plan ignores the over 120 municipalities, the 1,200 elected officials, the 41,000 businesses, and the 500,000 fishing families from up and down the Atlantic coast who all voiced their opposition to oil and gas drilling. It ignores concerns from the Pentagon and NASA about disruptions to their operations caused by drilling in the Atlantic. It ignores the unified opposition from West Coast states to drilling in the Pacific. It ignores appeals from Florida, from the Eastern Gulf, the one part of the Gulf of Mexico still free from oil rigs that they've remained protected. It ignores the Department of the Interior's own finding that Arctic drilling comes with a 75% chance of an oil spill, 75% chance in a treacherous and challenging environment. Simply put, the drilling plan of the Trump administration ignores everyone except for big oil. What's happening here is a dream scenario for big oil and a nightmare for our shore communities. It is a gift to corporate polluters at the expense of our coastal economies. But the massive expansion of offshore drilling is just one half of the administration's plan. The other half isn't getting much attention, but it's just as important. The Trump administration plans to dismantle the minimum safety protections in place right now for offshore drilling. The administration is reportedly working to weaken the well control rule, a major safety protection that was created after the Deepwater Horizon to prevent uncontrolled oil spills. In doing so, they hope to save the oil industry $900 million. According to the Wall Street Journal, their goal to update the rule is literally to delete the word safe because they believe it's ambiguous. But what happened in Deepwater Horizon, what happens when you don't have sensible protections, is not ambiguous. It's catastrophic. The fact that this proposal comes from the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement is particularly disturbing. Their sole mission is supposed to be to protect the safety of our workers and our environment, and instead they're using the authority to save big bucks for big oil. And while that proposal is still in the works, the Interior Department has already released other proposed offshore drilling changes, including the elimination for a requirement for independent certification of critical safety equipment. And when did they issue that proposal? On December 29th. Now, what kinds of proposals come out on the Friday before New Year? The kind that you don't want people to see. But I have some bad news for the Trump administration. We see you, we know what you're doing, and we're not going to stand for it. We've been through this fight before, and we've won. And while I hope we wouldn't be here again so soon, it's a fight worth having. In Congress, I'm going to do everything I can. Congressman Pallone and I will continue pushing our bill, the Coast Anti-Drilling Act, to permanently ban drilling in the Atlantic. We're also submitting comments to the Interior Department this week. Senator Booker couldn't be here with us today, is joining me and others in that regard. And we're working with our colleagues in the Senate to seek legislative solutions to an assault on our environment. And I'm thrilled that the governor-elect is here early and committed and passionate, along with the First Lady, because that adds a lot of firepower to our efforts. In briefing this summer, the Trump administration pledged to particularly consider the views of states in crafting their new plan. We know Governor Murphy is going to be making a strong case against Atlantic drilling, and we'll see how well the administration is going to listen. But we can't do it alone. And this is what I want to close on. We succeeded at this because we had literally tens of thousands of New Jerseyans and people across the coastlines of the Atlantic coming together in common cause and raising their voices in a way that they had to be heard. We need to do that again. This is about the future and the health of our economy. It's about being good stewards of the land for future generations of New Jerseyans and Americans. And together, once again, we will work to make sure that the Interior Secretary, who said he was going to listen to local communities and states, has a crescendous roar that ultimately will be so deafening that they will have to kill the drill once again.